At dinner, Mom said I have a month to find a new place. We sold the house. You're out. They left, leaving me alone. 6 months later, Mom texted, "Why are you still there?" I laughed. They had no idea who bought the house. Well, let's go. My name is Amber, and I'm 25 years old. I work as a programmer, which sounds cool to most people, but honestly, it's just me sitting at a computer all day writing code. That Tuesday evening, I dragged myself home after another long day, debugging someone else's mess. My head was pounding, and all I wanted was to eat something and crash on my bed. I barely made it through the front door before heading straight to the bathroom to wash my hands. The house smelled like Mom's pot roast, which was actually pretty good news since I was starving. I walked into the dining room and slumped into my usual chair at the table. Dad was already there, along with my two younger sisters, Sarah, who's 20 and in college, and Emma, who's 17 and still in high school. I was about to grab some food when Mom cleared her throat in that way. That meant she had something important to say. She stood there looking at all of us with this weird, calm expression on her face, like she was about to announce the weather or something. "I have an important message that concerns everyone," she said, her voice totally flat. "Especially you, Amber." I looked around the table and noticed something strange. Dad wasn't eating either, just sitting there with his hands folded. Sarah had this little smirk on her face, and Emma was trying not to giggle. They all knew something I didn't. Or at least they thought they did. "What's going on?" I asked, even though I already had a pretty good idea what was coming. Mom's mouth turned up in this fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We sold the house today. We're moving out tomorrow." I put on my best shocked face, widening my eyes and dropping my fork with a little clatter. "What? When did you decide this? Why didn't anyone tell me?" "Because we're not taking you with us," Mom said, still wearing that cold smile. Dad jumped in, like they had rehearsed this whole thing. "You have exactly 1 month to find a new place to live and move out before the new tenants arrive." I felt my stomach drop, but I kept up the act. New tenants? Who bought the house? Mom shrugged like it was no big deal. Some company. I don't know the details. That's when Emma couldn't hold it in anymore. She burst out laughing so hard she almost fell off her chair. "Soon, those new people are going to come and kick you out on the street with your stupid computer. You'll be living under a bridge." I waited for Mom or Dad to tell Emma to knock it off, but they just sat there smiling while both my sisters laughed at me. It was like watching a show they had all been looking forward to. "This isn't funny," I said quietly, letting my voice shake a little. Dad leaned back in his chair. "Tears won't help you now, Amber. You should have worked harder to earn enough for at least a rental apartment." I didn't say anything else. I just sat there staring at my plate while they finished their dinner and talked about their moving plans like I wasn't even there. When everyone was done eating, I mumbled something about being tired and went upstairs to my room. As soon as I closed my door, I threw myself face first onto my bed and buried my face in my pillow. Not because I was crying, but because I was trying so hard not to laugh out loud that my whole body was shaking. If they heard me laughing, the whole thing would be ruined. The truth was, I had known about the house sale for 2 months. I had known because I was the one buying it. Well, technically my company was buying it, but same thing. My parents had no idea that their own daughter was the company they had just sold their house to. But to understand why this was so perfect, you'd have to know what my life had been like with this family. My parents never hid the fact that they loved Sarah and Emma more than me. It wasn't like they beat me or anything. They fed me, gave me clothes, a roof over my head. But the favoritism was obvious in everything they did. When I turned 16, they threw Sarah this huge Sweet 16 party with all her friends and a professional DJ. When I turned 16, 5 years earlier, they got me a cake from the grocery store and said, "Happy birthday while watching TV." Sarah got a brand new car for her 18th birthday. I got $20 and a congratulations on graduating card. Every summer, they took Sarah and Emma on vacations to the beach or to visit relatives. I always had to stay home because they said someone needed to watch the house. Christmas was the worst. They'd pile presents under the tree for my sisters while I got maybe one or two things, usually practical stuff like socks or school supplies. When I was 15, I started working after school at a local grocery store because I wanted my own money. I was tired of having to ask for everything and usually being told no. With my first few paychecks, I bought myself a used laptop from a pawn shop. At school, I had been taking a free programming class, and I was actually pretty good at it. By the time I graduated high school, I had taught myself enough programming to know I wanted to make it my career. I applied to several colleges, and I got accepted everywhere I applied. The expensive private schools offered me partial scholarships, but I got a full ride to the state university. When I told my parents at dinner that I had gotten into college, they seemed happy for about 2 seconds. Then I mentioned needing money for the schools that didn't give me a full scholarship. "We're not paying for your college," Dad said without even looking up from his food. "We're saving that money for Sarah and Emma's education." I had expected that answer, so I just nodded and said I'd go to the state school. It was a good program anyway, and free was free. During college, I kept working part-time jobs and living at home. In my second year, I met this guy, Jake, in my programming class. We started working on projects together, developing small programs and apps that we could actually sell. We split the money 50-50, and I was making more than I ever had before. The weird part was, I was making more money than my dad, who worked at a hardware store. But I never told my family about any of it. I just kept wearing the same old clothes, driving the same beat-up car, and acting like I was barely scraping by. All through college, I was basically invisible in my own house. My parents would take Sarah and Emma on family vacations to Florida or California, posting pictures on Facebook of them having a great time at theme parks and beaches. I always stayed home, supposedly to watch the house, but really because they just didn't want me there. My birthdays were the worst part. Every year, Sarah and Emma got these big celebrations with friends, decorations, and expensive gifts. When my birthday came around, I'd wake up and nobody would even mention it. By evening, I'd go buy myself a small cake from the grocery store, and only then would they remember and mumble, "Oh yeah, happy birthday." For 4 years, this was my life. I went to classes, came home, worked on programming projects with Jake in my room, and pretended like I was just getting by financially. The truth was, Jake and I were making good money selling our software to small businesses. We created inventory management systems, simple accounting programs, stuff like that. Nothing fancy, but it worked, and people paid us well for it. When I graduated college at 22, none of my family showed up to the ceremony. Sarah had a volleyball tournament that day, and my parents said that was more important. Jake's family invited me to sit with them, which was nice, but it still hurt that my own parents couldn't be bothered. A few days after graduation, Mom cornered me in the kitchen. "Now that you're done with school, you need to start paying rent. $800 a month starting next week." I just nodded and said, "Okay." 800 was actually less than what I'd pay for an apartment, and I was making way more than that anyway, but they didn't need to know that. Also, Mom added, "You need to start buying your own groceries. We're not running a charity here." "Sure, no problem," I said. What they didn't know was that Jake and I had been working on something big during our last year of college. We had taken all our savings and started our own software development company. We rented this tiny, cheap office space that was basically just 2 desks and terrible lighting, but it had good internet, which was all we needed. We lived on ramen noodles and energy drinks for months, pouring every dollar we made back into the business. Jake's girlfriend thought we were crazy, and my family just assumed I was broke because I kept wearing the same old clothes and driving my beat-up Honda Civic. Then, when I was 24, everything changed. We had spent almost 2 years developing this really complex program for managing supply chains. It was way more advanced than anything we had done before. We were exhausted, broke, and honestly not sure if it would even work in the real world. But then this huge logistics company heard about our program through word of mouth. They tested it out, loved it, and offered to buy it from us. When they told us the price, I literally thought Jake was joking. $2.3 million, he said, staring at his laptop screen. They want to pay us $2.3 million. I made him show me the email 3 times before I believed it. We had gone from eating ramen every day to being millionaires overnight. Well, split between the 2 of us, but still more money than I had ever imagined having. The crazy part was what happened after that. Word got out in the industry that we had created something special, and suddenly every software company wanted to work with us. We started getting offers for custom development projects that paid more than my dad made in a year. By the time my parents decided to sell the house, I had over $3 million in various accounts. But I kept driving the same old car, wearing the same clothes, and living in my childhood bedroom while paying them $800 a month in rent. The funniest part was how I found out about the house sale. 2 months before that dinner conversation, I was actually looking for a place to buy. I figured it was finally time to move out and get my own space. I was browsing real estate websites when I came across a familiar listing. It was our house. My parents had put it on the market without saying a single word to me. The listing showed pictures of every room, including mine, with all my stuff still in it. They were literally trying to sell the house out from under me while I was still living there. At first, I was hurt. Then I got mad. But then I had an idea that was so perfect, I couldn't believe I hadn't thought of it sooner. I called Jake and told him what was happening. I'm going to buy it, I said, through our company. They'll never know it's me. Jake was quiet for a minute. That's either brilliant or completely insane. Probably both. So, I hired a real estate agent and had him negotiate the purchase on behalf of our software company. My parents thought they were dealing with some random business that wanted to buy their house as an investment property. They had no idea their own daughter was the buyer. The whole process took about 6 weeks. During that time, my parents were running around making moving plans and looking for a new place to live. Sarah was excited about moving closer to her college, and Emma was thrilled about getting a bigger bedroom in whatever new house they found. And the whole time, I just sat at the dinner table listening to them talk about their plans, nodding along and pretending like I had no idea what was going to happen to me. Inside, I was dying to laugh, but I kept it together. The night before the closing, I was in my room working on a new project when I heard Mom and Dad talking in the hallway. I almost feel bad about not telling Amber sooner, Mom said. She's going to be so shocked. She'll figure it out, Dad replied. Maybe this will motivate her to actually make something of herself. I had to bite my pillow to keep from laughing out loud. If only they knew that their supposedly useless daughter was about to become their landlord. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of a truck rumbling outside. I looked out my bedroom window and saw my parents loading suitcases into their car while movers were carrying boxes and furniture out of the house. They had packed everything except the stuff in my room and the basic kitchen appliances. I got dressed and went downstairs to find Mom standing in the now empty living room, checking something off a list. She looked up when she saw me and put on that fake sweet smile again. Well, Amber, this is it. We're leaving now. She walked over and stood right in front of me. You have exactly 1 month before the new owners show up. I suggest you start looking for an apartment today. I made my face look as sad and worried as possible. Sarah walked by, carrying her last bag, and she couldn't resist getting one more dig in. Good luck finding a place you can actually afford on your salary. Maybe you can find a nice cardboard box somewhere. Emma giggled. Or she could live in her car. Oh, wait, that piece of junk probably won't even start half the time. Dad came in from outside and looked around the empty room. Movers are done. Let's go. And just like that, they walked out. I stood at the front window and watched them drive away, not one of them looking back at the house or at me. The movers finished loading their truck and left too. As soon as they were all gone, I pulled out my phone and called Jake. They're gone, I said when he picked up. Bring beer and pizza. We're celebrating. Jake showed up an hour later with a case of beer and 2 large pizzas. We sat on the floor in the empty living room, eating pizza, straight from the box, and drinking beer in the middle of the day. I still can't believe you actually did this, Jake said, shaking his head. Your own parents sold you their house and don't even know it. Best part is they think some random company is going to kick me out in a month, I said, taking a long drink of beer. They have no idea I own the place now. You are absolutely treacherous, Jake said, but he was grinning. Remind me never to get on your bad side. We spent the afternoon planning what I wanted to do with the house. The truth was, I didn't want to change much. I liked the house the way it was, but I definitely needed to buy some furniture and get rid of the empty feeling. The next day, I went shopping for the first time in my life without worrying about money. I bought a huge sectional couch, a big screen TV, a proper dining room set, and all new appliances for the kitchen. I even got one of those fancy coffee machines that makes espresso. For the next 6 months, I settled into my new life as a homeowner. I kept working with Jake, developing new software, and making more money than ever. We had gotten so busy that we had to hire 2 more programmers and move to a bigger office. The best part was the silence from my family. No more criticism, no more being ignored at dinner, no more watching my sisters get everything while I got nothing. I was finally free from all of that. When my 26th birthday came around, I decided to throw myself a real party for the first time. Not a huge thing, just Jake and his girlfriend and a few other friends from work. We ordered way too much food, played games, and actually celebrated. It was the first birthday I had enjoyed in years. Of course, my parents and sisters didn't call or text, but honestly, I wasn't expecting them to. They had never remembered my birthday before, so why would they start now? I was at work about a week later when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer when I saw it was Mom, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello, I said, trying to sound neutral. Amber, what is going on? Mom's voice was sharp and angry. Mrs. Peterson from next door called me yesterday. She said you're still living in our old house. She said she saw you bringing in new furniture and that your car is still in the driveway every night. Mrs. Peterson was the nosiest neighbor on the block. She spent most of her day looking out her window and keeping track of everyone's business. I should have known she'd eventually call my parents. Oh, that, I said, trying not to laugh. Yeah, I'm still here. What do you mean you're still there? What about the new owners? They should have moved in months ago. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I started laughing. Mom, I am the new owner. My company bought the house. I bought my own house from you. There was complete silence on the other end. I could practically hear Mom's brain trying to process what I had just told her. That's impossible. You don't have that kind of money. You're just a programmer making barely enough to pay rent. Actually, I'm a millionaire, Mom. I own a software development company. Another long silence. Then Mom exploded. Are you kidding me right now? You let us sell you the house? You let us think you were going to be homeless? Why didn't you tell us you had money? Her voice kept getting higher and more hysterical with each question. I had to hold the phone away from my ear. I didn't tell you because you abandoned me, I said calmly. You sold the house and left me there like an old piece of furniture you didn't want to deal with. You made it very clear that I wasn't part of your family anymore. So I don't owe you any explanations. You can't just cut us out like this. We're your family. No, you're not. Not anymore. You made that choice when you decided I wasn't worth taking with you. I paused. I have to get back to work now. Don't call me again. I hung up before she could say anything else. But I knew this wasn't over. I knew they'd be back. Sure enough, that Saturday morning, I heard a car pull into my driveway. I looked out the window and saw my parents' car with all four of them getting out. Dad, Mom, Sarah, and Emma, all walking up to what they now knew was my front door. I opened the front door, and there they all were, standing on my porch looking uncomfortable. It felt weird seeing them there, like they were strangers visiting instead of people who had lived here for years. Come in, I said, stepping aside. They walked into the living room, and I watched their faces change as they saw all the new furniture. The huge sectional couch, the massive TV mounted on the wall, the expensive coffee table, everything top of the line. Emma's mouth literally fell open, and Sarah was staring at everything like she couldn't believe her eyes. Jesus Christ, Dad muttered under his breath. This stuff must have cost a fortune. Mom was looking around with this expression like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Amber, I need you to explain this to me. Where exactly did you get the money to buy all this and to buy this house? I shrugged and sat down on my new couch. I told you on the phone. I own a software development company. I've been making good money for a while now. How much money? Sarah asked. She was still staring at the TV. Enough, I said. Actually, I'm worth over $3 million now. All four of them went completely pale. Mom actually grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself, and Dad's face went white as a sheet. $3 million, Mom whispered. That's not possible. Very possible. Jakey and I started the company during college. We sold our first major program for over $2 million, and it's just grown from there. Emma suddenly started screaming. If you have that much money, you have to help us. I need a new phone, and Mom said I can't get one, and I want a car too. Emma, calm down, Dad said, but he didn't sound like he meant it. He was looking at me with this expression I'd never seen before, like he was seeing me for the first time. Mom finally found her voice again. Amber, we need to talk seriously. We've been having some financial difficulties lately. The new house is more expensive than we expected, and Sarah's college tuition is due next month. We don't have enough to cover it. She paused, probably expecting me to jump in and offer to help. When I didn't say anything, she continued. We need you to give us some money. It's the right thing to do. We're your family. I looked at each of them sitting there in my living room in the house they had sold and abandoned me in, asking me for money. The irony was almost too much. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You sold this house and left me here like I was just another piece of furniture you didn't want to take with you. You told me I had a month to get out before the new owners kicked me onto the street. You laughed when Emma said I'd be living under a bridge, and now you want me to give you money? We didn't know you had money then, Mom said quickly. If we had known... If you had known what? You would have taken me with you? You would have treated me better? You would have actually acted like I was your daughter? I stood up. I don't think so. You would have just taken my money and still treated me like garbage. That's not true, Dad said. But he didn't sound convincing even to himself. Really? Because for the last 10 years, you've made it clear that Sarah and Emma were the important ones, and I was just taking up space. You took them on vacations and left me home. You celebrated their birthdays and ignored mine. You paid for their activities and told me to get a job if I wanted anything. Sarah finally spoke up. We didn't mean it like that. I laughed. Yes, you did. And you know what? It doesn't matter anymore because when you left me here alone, you made it clear that I wasn't part of this family, so I don't owe you anything. Mom's eyes started filling with tears. Amber, please, we made mistakes, but we're still your family. We love you. Your tears don't mean anything to me, I said coldly. You should have thought about that before you decided I wasn't worth taking with you. I walked over to the front door and opened it. I think you should leave now. Amber, wait, Dad said, standing up. We can work this out. We can be a real family now. No, we can't. You had 25 years to be a real family, and you chose not to. It's too late now. One by one, they filed out of the house. Mom was the last to leave, and she turned back at the door. This isn't over, Amber. We won't give up on you. Yes, it is over. And if you keep bothering me, I'll get a restraining order. I closed the door and locked it behind them. For the next few weeks, they called and texted constantly. Dad left voicemails saying he was sorry and that they wanted to make things right. Sarah sent long text messages about how she missed me and wanted us to be sisters again. Emma kept asking for money for different things. I ignored all of it. Eventually, they showed up at my house again. This time, I didn't even open the door. I just called through it that if they didn't leave immediately, I was calling the police and filing for a restraining order. They finally got the message and stopped bothering me. That was 6 months ago. Since then, I've been living my life exactly how I want to. Jake and I expanded the business even more, and we're making more money than ever. I bought myself a new car, took a vacation to Europe, and I'm thinking about buying a beach house. A couple of days ago, my Aunt Linda came to visit. She's Mom's sister, and she's always been the peacemaker in the family. Amber, honey, I think you should consider forgiving your parents, she said over coffee. They know they made mistakes, and they really want to make things right with you. I shook my head. I don't want to see them anymore, Aunt Linda. I'm done with all of that. But they're your family. No, they're not. They stopped being my family when they decided I wasn't worth keeping around. Aunt Linda looked sad, but she didn't push it anymore. Before she left, she hugged me and said, I understand why you feel that way. I just hope someday you can find peace with it. I already have peace with it. I have a successful business, my own house, and friends who actually care about me. I don't need people in my life who only want me around when I can do something for them. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I had told them about my success from the beginning. Would they have treated me better? Would they have included me in their family activities and vacations? Probably. But it would have been fake, just like their tears when they begged me for money. They would have been nice to me because of what I could give them, not because they actually loved me. The truth is, buying this house was the best thing I ever did. Not just because I have a beautiful place to live, but because it showed me exactly who my family really was. And it showed me that I'm strong enough to stand up for myself and build my own life.